Welcome to this episode of the Be Ready Utah PrepCast. I'm Wade Mathews, the Be Ready Utah manager here at the Utah Division of Emergency Management. And joining me today for repeat performances are Kathryn McMullin and Bryan Stinson, also both with Utah Division of Emergency Management. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Yep.
All right. And we are going to address a topic that we all love to discuss. And this is going to be a two-part series, so make sure you catch both parts. And that topic is hygiene and sanitation in disaster. Not day to day, we all know about that already, but in disaster, hygiene and sanitation. Why is that so important in the first place?
Well, it seems like disease is one of the things that happens the most after disaster. It's the second disaster after the disaster. If we can't put it out on the curb and have it taken care of, or let it go down the drain, or flush it away, we're not really used to living our lives like that. And those things are taken away from us in normal life.
During earthquakes and flooding and fires and those types of things.
Yeah, and so that stuff is not taken away during those extreme events, and so we don't know how to take care of ourselves in that case. And in that case, we might be getting sickness, cholera, dysentery, all sorts of different kind of diseases that we can get that we don't think about in our first world kind of living.
And it can take something that's a catastrophic situation and make it so much worse. So to add illness on top of that while you're trying to recover from something that's been devastating for your family, to go into an environment which isn't clean and have illness also impacting your family can really make that situation so much worse.
Exactly. Like you say, I like to call it the disaster after the disaster. Right. Is the disease, the illness, the sickness. And I misunderstood the direction you were going with that really quickly. The stuff that's taken away normally in everyday situations is the waste, the garbage, the
wastewater.
The wastewater, those types of things are normally removed from the environment every day. But in a disaster, those systems may not be working, and then we are dealing with a buildup of waste and those types of things.
And it can happen so much easier than you think. There's so many things that can impact, especially our water and wastewater. It can be anything from a long-term power outage. You can lose water and wastewater for that, to all types of, anytime the earth move, anytime there's land movement, that could be anything from a landslide, debris flow, to an earthquake. Even wildfire can shut off our ability to have water in our homes. And so there's lots of things that can impact that, and that can bring illness into your home if you're not disposing of it properly on your own.
Okay, great. So we're gonna save toileting for part two.
Exciting.
But let's talk about garbage. You know, that's the stuff that we produce every day, all the time. The garbage. What do we do with that in a disaster?
Well, it accumulates just in normal life, just as well. So I mean, and so we put it on the curb, and the facilities come and take it away. So what do we do with it? The thing that I usually recommend to people is think about reduce, reuse, recycle. And it all comes down to that. There's so much in our living that we use something and we throw it away. But in an emergency situation, can I reuse this number 10 can? That's one that we often produce a lot from, maybe food storage. That's something you can use for many different kinds of things. So go through those kinds of things. You want to sort them into different categories. What can I do? Can I reuse this? If not, what else can I do with it? If you can't do anything with it, it may come down to just storing it someplace until normal services are back in order, in which case you may want to just smash it down as much as you can. And other things like maybe paper or wood kinds of things, depending on what the local laws are, or what the local circumstances are, the recommendations from your emergency management, you might be able to burn some of those things to reduce them in size. So those are some of the things you can do with trash.
Well, I would add that you got to be very careful, because in a disaster situation, you're not just dealing with your normal everyday hazard. You could have all kinds of debris from whatever that event was. It could have been a tornado, it could have been an earthquake, whatever is happening. If you're sorting trash, please make sure that you're wearing your personal protective equipment. that you're being careful about that you're sorting hazards away from normal things that you can recycle or reduce as much as possible. And then I really like that you said we consult and we look for guidance from our local emergency management, our health department, the EPA, because they're going to be giving guidance on what we can do. The local landfills they're probably going to shut their doors. They've shut their doors in the past during wind events, because if they have everyone bringing all their debris all at the same time, it overwhelms them. So they shut their doors, and they'll start communicating with our cities saying, here's what you can bring us and what you cannot. And then the city is going to communicate with us. They're going to start sorting trash too. They're going to start having an area where they're collecting debris, and they're going to put out as much good information as they can about where you can bring your debris, your trash, what you can bring and how you should bring it. So be careful and listen for that guidance. Make sure you're doing it properly. Wear protective equipment when you're sorting your trash. Be very careful, because it can bring illness in, but you can also make yourself really sick by not being careful about how you're sorting that debris.
So in a disaster, this could be days and weeks before things return to normal and normal garbage pickup is occurring and those types of things. And so pending what your local officials tell you what to do with that, what are some of those things that we might be prepared to do? What are some of the things they could tell us? Burying or burning or whatever. What are some of those things, and how do we do those things properly?
Well, that's a good question. I think that if the local emergency management says to burn, then you need to make sure you're doing it very carefully, that you have a proper area that's secure, that your flames aren't going to transfer. Because if you think about it, we're saying you're without water for some time. That means your lawn's not getting watered, so now it's really dry, and now you have weeds in the backyard. And if you just go and try to find a spot in the backyard where you can have some dirt, that could get out of hand very quickly. So if they are advising that you could burn some just paper type trash that would be safe, then be really careful about it. Make sure that you have an established area that's safe to burn, that has a actual perimeter, some type of metal can, something that would be a safe fire pit. Wouldn't you recommend, Bryan? What do you want to add to that?
Sure. Well, another thing I would say that another hazard, I guess you could say, building up big piles of trash as well can block roadways, and then emergency access through your neighborhoods could be really hampered by large piles of trash. So again, talk to your local emergency management, your local landfill, health department, whatever. Find out what the plans are. If there isn't necessarily a plan in your neighborhood, you may be able to encourage them to come up with a plan. But wherever you might be temporarily storing some of that trash and garbage, make sure you're not hampering movement of emergency vehicles.
And those large piles of debris and so on, those could accumulate over days and weeks, and it could take days and weeks for the crews to start coming around and cleaning that up. Mm-hmm. But what about in the immediate household area, the stuff, you mentioned using your food storage and so on, and watered bottle, the stuff that we're not going to reuse. Do we recommend? I mean, not do we. If recommendation is to bury it, then what is that a option?
I gotta say, I really highly doubt that your local emergency management, your local communities are really hardly ever going to say bury. Now, could it happen depending on how large the event is? It's not an impossibility. But burying waste is actually, in order for it to be done environmentally safe, is very tricky. And we can't have people accidentally burying the wrong type of hazards and ruining our soil or contaminating our groundwater, or just it could impact a lot of things. So I highly doubt your city's going to say, start burying it in your backyard. Because
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're talking about household garbage, not human waste still.
Right, we're still not talking about biohazard, but still household garbage and also construction debris or disaster debris can still be a hazard. There's going to be all kinds of pesticides mixed in and different hazards. So I highly doubt, it's a very small percentage, that your city will say bury it. Okay. I also don't think that they will generally say burn it, because while most people are very capable of saying this is just paper and I'm going to burn it, we live in highly dense residential areas anymore. And if everybody has these fire burnings, what kind of fumes are we doing to our air quality while we're in a disaster? And we're going to cause other illness by having different types of fumes in the air. So we have to be very careful. What about apartment complexes? If we're saying burn your waste, what do? Are they going to go out and just pick a spot to burn? So I highly doubt the city's going to say burn or bury.
I agree. Also considering the fact that, again, in a disaster, maybe water services are out. That means your fire protection is not happening either. There's no water in
Burning
the
down
fire
our houses,
hydrants. And so,
accident.
so that's probably not going to happen.
I don't think that's going to happen. I think mostly it's going to be sorted. So it's something that you should consider when you have your personal preparedness supplies and storage is, how many bags do I have? People get all excited about their peaches and their salsa without ever realizing how many, containers do I have? How many bags, trash bags do I have? Large outdoor trash bags, indoor. How long could I bag my waste and keep it properly stored out of the way of responding vehicles? The ability that when the city does say, we're sorting trash at this location, and you may bring us regular household waste here, you may bring us construction debris here. They have what they call green debris. That's like your trees that came down and you're trying to clean up your area. And they'll start saying, please bring that here. How are you going to transport it? Do you have bags? Have you been responsible with it? Don't throw away what you can avoid, like reduce what you're disposing of, be responsible with it.
Now, you talked about doing this safely with proper protective equipment. Let's move on into the personal hygiene as far as hand washing. Preventing the disease, the disaster after the disaster, it'll be important to wash our hands. And if the water's not running in the faucet, we're just so used to turning on the faucet and the water's there. Well, in a disaster, that's probably not going to be the case. So having hand washing stations could be very important to prevent disease after disaster.
I read something from the CDC that said that the average human being touches their face about 25 times an hour. So if you can imagine being in a disaster, all the different kinds of yuckiness that you could be putting your hands into, not to mention all the other people that are going to be being sick, how often are you putting those things right on your face?
Well, and during a disaster, when you're under a high state of stress, your immune system is lowered. Your ability to fight off illness is much less than everyday, day-to-day germs. And so when you're under that extreme stress, your body can't fight it off, and something that may have just been a normal cut and small infection can take your life. It can be a very deadly situation during a disaster.
So we're talking about basically like if you go camping, you know how to set up a washing station. Tent campers, you've got your water jug, you've got your soap, a towel, a catch basin, catch the dirty water, use it to put out your fires, whatever, that type of thing. What are some of the specifics we need to be thinking about with your hand washing stations?
Well, I think that all those are really good tips. We have just a small jug, like a water jug that has a spigot on it, and that's our hand washing station for camping. Something to catch it in, some type of towels to dry it off, whatever you have that's in your kit, but also the ability to use hand sanitizer is good. We have to be careful if that hand sanitizer expires. So watch the dates on your hand sanitizer. It'll just become more and more diluted, so it's not doing as effective of a job if it's really old hand sanitizer. So dispose of that in your storage supplies. Go check the dates and get rid of it. Also, when you're wearing your personal protective equipment as you're outside cleaning up and doing different work, don't track that back into your house. You take that personal protective equipment off outside and either dispose of it or clean it, and before you don't bring it into your house.
Okay, let's move on a little bit as far as other hygiene, dishwashing. So we want to wash our dishes, right? Hot water versus cold, if you got a way to heat that up, correct?
Well, that's a good thing. I mean, a lot of times we think about my camping equipment, but that camping equipment can be a really good, valuable tool for emergency preparedness as well. If you have a means of warming up water, hot water is much more effective, not only in cleaning your hands, but cleaning dishes, cleaning your laundry. It helps to kill some of those germs. It helps to break down some of the whatever it is that may be on your clothing or laundry, and it works better with the soap for it to be warm. It's a catalyst to help wash those things out of your laundry. So yeah, if you can use warm water, make sure that you have plenty of soap, laundry soap, laundry detergent, dish detergent at home and in part of your emergency supplies to take care of that laundry and dishes. Another thing that we talked about back in our water, when we talked about water, is we recommended having about a gallon of water per person per day. But hygiene and sanitation takes a lot of water as well. So you may want to think, how much water do I have? Do I have enough to cover all my needs for not only drinking and food preparation, but for hygiene and sanitation as well? When you go and take that bath or do your laundry or your dishes, think about how can I use the smallest amount of water possible, but I still don't want to sacrifice my hygiene and sanitation.
So with our water, we're talking about clean water for drinking, purified water for drinking, but hand washing, laundry, doing your laundry, washing dishes, can you use the water out of the top of the toilet tank? You know, sometimes we have some notice, we fill up the bathtub with water. That's not going to be drinking water, right? That could be for laundry or other things like that. Is that right?
Yeah. You shouldn't turn on your water if they're saying it's contaminated in any way, and I wouldn't use it at that point ever. But you're right, you can use different types of water. One of my favorite tips is that when I buy my detergent jug, I use liquid detergent for my laundry at home, and when that is gone and empty, it's great plastic, it's thick plastic, and so I will fill that back up with water, and I'll take a marker and write wash water on the bucket. And maybe even the date that I did it, so I know. And the residue has a little bit of soap residue in there, and I'm storing a little more water in a container that I normally wouldn't use for drinking. But yeah, you can use different types of water for your laundry facilities.
Okay, awesome. Anything else either of you would like to add right now?
Well, I was just thinking, what kind of supplies do we have to do dishes by hand? Do we know how to do dishes by hand? Do we know how to do laundry by hand? And there's some products out there like this. This is something you can do for doing laundry, like in a bucket. You just kind of squish it in the bucket. You know, there's other things.
Washing machine on a stick.
Washing machine on a stick. You know, there's also the traditional washboards. You know, do you know how to do those skills? Teach your children how to do those skills. Most kids might not even know how to do dishes by hand in the sink.
Right, or part of our personal preparedness supplies could be some laundry line. You can buy just the cording that you would need, a heavy-duty cording, and a bag of laundry clips that maybe we wouldn't have normally in our stuff right now, but make a laundry kit, and then you can dry your laundry outside. Yeah.
Clothespins.
Clothespins. Like, how many clothespins do you have?
Yeah. Again, do kids know what clothespins are? Right. Probably not.
And if we all of a sudden had to hang our laundry out, I think many of us would be using furniture to throw laundry out on versus just being able to have the ability to really quickly string your laundry line out, put some clips on it, and you're good to go.
Right.
And you can get those kind of supplies for a couple of bucks at a hardware
Amazon.
store.
Yeah.
It's not a huge expense.
I think a laundry kit is a great Christmas present.
All right. Look for a laundry kit in your stockings. And that's all the time that we have right now. Thank you again for joining us here on the Be Ready Utah PrepCast. As always, you can watch these on our Be Ready Utah YouTube channel, our website, bereadyutah.gov, Twitter at Be Ready Utah, and then if you want to send us an email or respond with questions here, bereadyutah@utah.gov. And thank you very much.
Hey, hope you enjoyed this episode of the Be Ready Utah PrepCast. Like what you're seeing? Have a question about anything related to emergency preparedness? Or do you have a comment about something you've learned as you make a plan or get a kit? We'd love to hear from you. Comment or reply to us on Twitter or Facebook at Be Ready Utah with hashtag BRUPrepCast or in the comments on YouTube. We'll talk about it on one of the next episodes of the Be Ready Utah PrepCast. Don't forget to share these videos and your own adventures in preparedness with your friends, family, neighbors, and coworkers, because anytime is a good time to talk about emergency preparedness. See you next time.